This is a re-release of my interview with artist Morgan Sims. I first saw Morgan's artwork at a gigantic art show in Chicago. I think it might have been at the Merchandise Mart, and it was probably hundreds of artists with their work on display, and his work jumped out to me above everybody else's. I thought it was very unique, very interesting. And I asked him to be on the podcast, and this is the interview. He recently was in Vermont. He showed up on Facebook as being in Vermont, and him and I got together for coffee, which was really special. A super nice guy. His artwork is very unique, interesting, creative, vibrant, and I just love it. I hope you enjoy my conversation with artist Morgan Sims. A while back, I attended the one-of-a-kind art show at the Merchandise Mart in Chicago. This is a huge show, very spread out, with lots of artwork and artists. In all of this, I spotted one collection of artwork that stood out to me from all others. Morgan's work is broken up into three main series: drip paintings, geometric paintings, and neon sculptures. I am pleased to share my conversation with Chicago artist Morgan Sims.
But the drip painting started as me wanting to look at imagery and sort of break it down, less information. So it's sort of based on pixelations to a certain degree, and it's the reference there wasn't at the time meant to be a reference to technology or video games. I mean, maybe technology, but it wasn't really a video game reference. It was more of a image resolution type reference. So it was like, how messed up or blurred out can a photo be or an image be before you and still have recognition. So if it just comes down to colors, how much can you make out that image still? So that whole series is essentially just playing with abstraction in that sense of
how little information can you put and still get the idea across.
Yeah, exactly. And then the drips were sort of an accidental thing. You can take an image or something that's three-dimensional looking, and then it drips, and it's a flat image, but yet somehow it's still, it's a flat image that's got some texture to it from the drips, but it still might convey some sort of three-dimensionality. So a lot of the pieces, or some of the pieces in that series I've done have been these floating objects or spheres or something like that's got a relatively plain background.
Yeah.
But I've done all sorts of stuff. So I've I've done some portrait commission work in that style, and I'm intending to do some more.
Good.
I don't know.
Yeah. When I first saw your work, it was at a show, a big center or something. Do you remember? I think you recalled which one it was.
I think it was the one-of-a-kind fair at the Merchandise Mart, maybe.
Yeah, that sounds right. And your work jumped out at me from everything else that was there. It was so unique and different.
Thank you.
Not only your use of color, but technique, everything about it. And you had I recall you had two different types of, probably three. I don't think the neon resonated with me, but definitely the geometric stuff I thought was fantastic, and the drip stuff. And those are both very different. Okay, so tell me about the geometric stuff, if you could, where that came from.
Yeah, I think at the time, I wanted to move away from imagery to a certain degree as far as painting goes and do something different. So the first geometric paintings I was doing were based on graph paper sketches, just little isometric perspective drawings that I wanted to challenge myself to be able to make a shaped canvas to fit that drawing. And I also wanted to completely change my, technique of how I applied paint. So I thought it would be interesting to try to just sort of stain the paintings, so soak the color into them. So the first ones I did anyways were designs that were laid flat, worked out in pencil on a linen or a canvas, and then I would take watered down acrylic and sort of soak colors into little areas. So essentially just working with shapes within the canvas. And then I would build up transparent layers to get the values that I wanted. It'd be a very simple image, like maybe a square divided into 4 triangles or something. And I'd want it to look like, one triangle was 80% gray and another one 60% gray, another one 40% gray. So I had a spiral of values. I don't think I actually made a painting like that, but something like that, where I would essentially, the color didn't really matter. I was just layering transparent colors and trying to get them to become a certain value in the end. And a lot of times it ended up being grays and browns and kind of muted colors. And then at different points, I wanted to make them more colorful. So then I would let a wash of primary colors drip down it or something. Yep. So if some of those paintings that look very geometric and almost optical type geometric designs have splashy colors over them, etc. So that's how that started. It's just a departure from the drip paintings.
Tell me about neon. That's super cool.
Neon is really fun. It's like got a kind of a magical presence. I feel, when you turn on neon and you look at it, it's exciting. I still get excited looking at neon. But then as a material to work with, it's difficult. There's people that are really good at it because they've been doing it for a really long time. I consider myself like intermediate or something as far as neon goes. Like I'm capable of making things, but it's hard for me. So, there's certain things I don't do. Not that I will never do it, but it's, I do enough different things that I'm, even though I've been doing neon for 10 years now, it's not like it's, I might go 6 months where I didn't make a neon piece because I was so busy working on paintings or something.
Is it hot?
It is hot.
It is hot. And so the tubes come in fixed lengths. And
yes.
Okay. And then the different colors or different gases?
Both, yes. So the tubes, they usually come in 4 or 5 foot lengths, and they're straight and they're different diameters. And the glass usually is a clear glass with a phosphor coating on the inside, and that phosphor coating reacts with the gas that you put in it to make the color it needs to be. But then there are also, specialty colors that are colored glass with phosphor coating, and then that reacts with the gas to create a color. So you have you have a rainbow of colors you can get out of neon, but the only way you're going to get a deep blue or a deep purple or a deep emerald green is if the glass is actually that color, plus it has the phosphor coating that will react with the gas.
So if it doesn't have a phosphor coating, will it glow?
It will glow the color of the natural state of the gas. So
which is
neon,
what?
Your two most common gases are neon and argon. So neon is open sign orange, and argon is like an electric blue. There's other gases. Yeah, it's very cool. So what is cool about neon, and what I like to do with color a lot is, and everybody does this because you can achieve certain colors by mixing one gas with a different tube. So the most, I don't know if it's the most common one, but a common one would be to take a tube that's supposed to be blue when you fill it with argon. It's got a coating in it to make it like a sky blue or something. If you fill that tube with neon, it becomes bubblegum pink. So most of the pink neon signs you see are probably blue tubes meant to be blue that have a neon gas in them. So if you look at a neon sign near the ends where the wires come out, a lot of times there's a little section where you can just see the gas color.
So wait, you're not doing any. You buy all these tubes pre-filled with the gas and with the coating, right? And you're just bending. Oh.
You buy them, they're empty tubes. Oh. You bend it into the shape you want, so you do all your fabricating, and then there's a process called bombarding where you're pumping the tube with gas after the piece is already made.
Cool. Yeah. I didn't realize that. Okay. That's fascinating.
Yes. Once the gas is in there, you don't really want to be, torching it so much. But yeah, so it's, it's like flame working basically as far as glass goes. And again, I don't have a glass blowing background, but I did, I've been doing neon and I have torches that I work with. And essentially you build your piece on a table, and you know, bend little sections, lay them on the table, and then you seam those sections together if you have a complicated piece. And then when it's all ready, then you bombard it and you fill it with the gas. So,
amazing. I'm from Boston, and we did not have all of the old school neon signs that are still around here in Chicago. Like, they all had been removed. Right. And there's a lot of it still here. There's that place on is it Lawrence that says Chop Suey? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I'm sure I've been by there, but I'm not.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I'm not up there that often, so I don't know if I know. But yeah, the complexity of neon signage back when it was, the popular, sign to make. It's like they're huge, and there's like so many pieces to the neon. It's and that's always a challenge, is installing neon and dealing with the wiring and all that. It's like it makes it seem like what I do is not difficult at all, but that's just sign stuff, I guess. For you can get into animating signs and stuff like that, which I haven't really gotten too much into with neon. But I was going to say, there's other gases that people use that I haven't used, but is it Krypton is sort of a silvery color, and then helium. Again, I haven't used that, so I don't have too much experience, but I believe helium is sort of warm like neon.
They're all the noble gases.
Yeah.
So they're all unreactive? Did you know that?
I don't know the chemistry side of it so much, so I would be happy to hear. Yeah.
Oh, so they are they are all completely unreactive. So when you think of like how atoms work, and an atom is very reactive because it's like missing you want eight electrons, and if you have 7 electrons, which is like chlorine, like it's very reactive. It's like looking for that electron. All of the noble gases, they all have 8 electrons, so they're completely stable, and they're basically unreactive. That's why you can inhale helium. It's not going to do anything.
Right. Gotcha.
So they don't really. So you would never hear of a chemical formula that has a noble gas in it.
Gotcha.
There's no helium bromide. It's they're always on their own.
Right.
And I think that's why they're called noble gases or something. But
okay. So they don't attach to other things. Is that kind of like what you mean?
Yeah, they don't attach. They're always on their own.
Gotcha.
They're solo.
Cool. One thing I love about living in Chicago is I'm always meeting new people. So it's a big city, and there's people coming in and out, and there's a lot of artists here. It's really, obviously the pandemic makes it harder to go to art shows and meet people, the old way, but I feel like I enjoy meeting new people, at different venues, and if it's online, that's cool. But that's one thing I really love about Chicago. I pretty much immediately gravitated towards cities. From where I grew up was more rural, and I love going back to visit, and I like California a lot, but I enjoy being in a city that has more art stuff happening, I guess. I think at a certain point I realized that I didn't know how I was going to make a living doing what I was doing. And to a certain degree, it didn't matter at a certain point. I just knew what I liked to do, and kept moving in that direction. And I know that's not like the best plan as far as going about earning a living, but I think it's interesting, or it's been interesting. I didn't decide to go to grad school right away. Like, I was out of undergrad. I had a degree. I was working, and I wasn't even really making art for a couple years, and then decided I wanted to get back into it and go to graduate school.
So it sounds like you were sort of just focusing on doing what seemed like the right thing to do and not worrying too much about the future. and just kind of having faith that things were going to work out. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think so. I think especially early on, I had that sort of faith. I mean, it's definitely a certain amount of privilege to be able to wing it, and feel like I can wing it. But I didn't, I've had to figure things out and struggle through things and, work the whole time trying to make one part of my life work by working with another part. Some of this stuff you feel like you can choose, but you kind of just go with what feels right, I think.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't, though. Like, I think a lot of people, they don't go with what feels right. They do with what they go with what they think they should be doing. And sometimes that works out. A lot of times that causes a lot of problems. Because people end up working really, really hard at something that isn't necessarily a good fit for like who they are. And with many people who, whatever, that's part of life. With a lot of people, that causes a lot of problems.
Yeah, I think so. That makes sense to me. I mean, it's also too, people change. So you want to leave your options open, I feel like, if you can, but at the same time, you have to devote yourself to something. If you want to get, if you want to push it as far as you feel like you can push it, then you have to push yourself to do that. So, I don't want to say that necessarily makes you better at it, but I would imagine so. Keeping your options open so that you can try new things if you're feeling stuck and, maybe you're in some career path or something that you don't like. So I believe in that, but at the same time, I also understand that, I feel like I've had to do art for a really long time to get to where I am. And I still feel like I have somewhere, places to go with that. So I say, having an open mind and leaving your options open is one thing, but at the same time, you kind of have to not quit what you're doing if you want to keep pushing yourself.
Well, thank you so much for talking to me. This was great.
Yeah. Thanks for, inviting me. So, it's cool. I've listened to a few of the, podcasts, going back, and it's super interesting to hear from people. So hadn't thought of doing something like this before you asked me, though. So,
oh, you had never done one before?
No. Mm-mm.
Okay.
I actually don't even, I've listened to podcasts. I only recently got Spotify to where I can listen to different things. So I'm like, I was like CDs in the car up until like a year or two ago. So
all right. Well, hopefully I brought you up to 2020.
Yeah, right.
My name is Ricky McGuckran, and you have been listening to Eager to Know, the podcast. If you haven't already, please go to Apple Podcasts and subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. Join me next week for another Eager to Know podcast.